for me, so I hope that you'll all bear with me. What we've been finding, because I work with seniors through the Mid-Island Y through 3 programs that help seniors to age in place within Plainview, Old Bethpage, and Syosset, is that a lot of the resources that we were used to looking to support older adults have shifted or changed. And that some are not available in the ways that they were previously, and some new resources and supports that we haven't used in the past have become available. And it's been an incredible learning experience for all of us, making all of these calls and learning things from other professionals, learning things from the seniors that we've spoken to that have come across resources. So what we've tried to do today is to compile a lot of that information so that you have it all in one place, and hopefully things that have worked for others can work for you and your families as well. I'm trying to advance the slide and I'm running into an issue. There we go. So I wanted to just talk about how this crisis is different from others that we've faced before. I think one of the main points that we're talking to seniors about is that the supply chains are stressed and disrupted by current circumstances. So things that we're used to just saying, oh, I need something, I'll order it on Amazon and it'll come in 2 days, no problem. Those items are now possibly taking weeks to come. Certain key items are difficult to find. There are sections of the supermarket that you might go into and the shelves are bare. And so we really need to be thinking not just of what our needs are today, but we're really encouraging people to try to think 2 weeks ahead about what they're going to need so that they're not frantic at the last minute trying to pull things together. Another issue is that family and friends who were previously providing support may be limited in their ability to do so because they may be social distancing. So, an adult child who came and was gave some respite to a spouse that was a primary caregiver might not want to come into that house because they don't want to expose the senior to the germs that they're being exposed to in their day-to-day lives. That those family and friends may have their own health concerns. They may be trying to, like my husband and I are, keep 2 40-hour-a-week jobs going while balancing the needs of an elementary school student and a toddler. So the other family members may have different availability than they have in the past. And also the circumstances are constantly evolving. Just when we think we've figured out what we need to do and what's working and what isn't, it feels like another wrinkle is getting added. The good news is, one, getting to your senior years means that you have coped with countless issues over your lifetime, and we really want to think about mobilizing those coping skills and strategies in the situation that we're facing now. Sometimes it's so easy to say, oh my gosh, I'm almost out of milk, or oh boy, this, I'm concerned about this family member, and to get so caught up in that anxiety and not having other things to distract us that the anxiety and the stress kind of snowballs. And so it's really important to pause and to remember I've gotten through every situation that I've faced before, and I'm going to, use those skills in the current circumstances to get through this too. Service providers and healthcare professionals are learning more each and every day, and new resources are constantly being made available. That's going to be a key focus today, is sharing some of those resources with you. And in some way, we're really all in this together, even though we're in it in each of our respective homes or wherever we're each isolating. We're really going through a collective experience. And there are more and more avenues that are being made available for support if you know where to reach out for them. So what we're going to really focus on today is twofold. One is accessing the necessities. So, we all need food. Many of us need medication to stay well. We have concerns about, just our own day-to-day healthcare needs. My almost 2-year-old fell down the steps, and ordinarily we would have rushed her to a pediatric dentist because she hit her mouth. And figuring out, wait, maybe that's not so wise, because then we would be exposing her to something, and what's the other avenues that we can consider. And then also mental and emotional health, addressing anxiety and depression, whether pre-existing or related to the current circumstances, reducing our social isolation, even as we're maintaining our social distance, staying informed, but not repeatedly traumatizing and re-traumatizing ourselves by kind of stewing in upsetting news, and incorporating healthy distractions. So that's kind of an overview of what we're going to spend our time on this afternoon, and then hopefully work in some of your questions as well. I think the number one issue that we're getting, as my staff and I have spoken to about 400 seniors since this period of social isolation began, is just food accessibility. When this started, a lot of people went to supermarkets and bought up large quantities of certain key things. So it's a challenge just for the supermarkets stocking items as usual. Online shopping services like Instacart, Amazon Fresh, Peapod have very limited availability right now because there's demand across every age group. So you literally have people sometimes staying up till 2 in the morning to try to see does an Instacart slot become available, or reserving a Peapod slot that they used to be able to order one day and get their delivery the next day, getting delivery slots that are 2, 3, 4 weeks into the future. The good news is that there are some resources that are either specific to seniors or that are a little bit lesser known at this point, for if you do have other needs. So we're going to go through a resource called Umbrella that's senior specific. We're going to talk about restaurants, caterers, distributors that have options, local food pantries, home deliver meal options, and volunteer shopping. The key point that I want to drive home is don't wait until you're out of food to place an order. You want to be thinking about placing your order for next week's groceries, or really for a week to 2 weeks ahead. You want to be thinking about what your future needs are going to be, so that you have time to get those resources in order and to move forward in the queue of whatever is being shopped for. So in terms of senior specific grocery delivery, an overall resource is Umbrella. Their website is askumbrella.com, and you can submit a request online, or they have people who will take a request over the phone. You usually do, if you call that 822-4498 number, need to leave a message and have someone call you back, but someone does call you back. You're able to order online or by telephone, and you're using a credit card, so you're allowing for contact-free delivery. You're not handling the same cash or check that shopper will be handling. The Umbrella is an organization that had been providing kind of handiwork to seniors in the community on a membership model for a number of years. It used to be you had to have a $199 membership, and then you could get odd jobs done for $20 an hour. During this crisis, they've moved away from that model. They're no longer charging a membership fee. When possible, they're trying to have tasks done by volunteers, and they're asking for a $10 contribution for their role in coordinating it, for the telephonic systems, for their staff that's taking the orders, for the website maintenance, and so forth. And they're limiting it specifically to those who are over the age of 60 or are immune compromised. Right now, their wait seems to be about 7 to 10 days. We have heard stories of people getting it much sooner than that, but you want to kind of go into it assuming that you're going to be one of the longer wait times, because you just don't know. And people seem to be having a pretty successful experience with getting their groceries purchased through this resource. They also, I believe, have some of their handiwork people that were paid employees. If somebody does have an emergent need and needs it done sooner and are willing to pay to have someone do it sooner. The next resource is restaurants, caterers, and distributors. So some local restaurants and caterers have switched over to either a delivery or a curbside pickup model. And as I'm talking to seniors, I'm starting to hear more and more that some of these restaurants are also saying, you know, we'll also sell you some of the things that you'd like to have in your house that you wouldn't normally buy from a restaurant. So somebody was telling me that their local bagel shop, they were able to order whatever, you know, sandwiches or bagels they might ordinarily, but they were also able to order a dozen eggs. So kind of thinking creatively in that way. And some restaurant and catering suppliers who saw a huge drop in their business because many caterers and more fine dining restaurant establishments are just not operating right now, have shifted their focus to home delivery. So two that I've come across that I've heard decent things about are Crystal Fruits and Vegetables and the Meat Guys. I actually, in anticipation of this, I did a trial order with Crystal Fruits and Vegetables, so I could tell you all about the experience. So basically, they have fruits, vegetables, and some dairy items like eggs and milk. And you place an order online. The prices are a little bit premium above what you might pay for at a supermarket, but they do get delivered to your door. When I did it, it was a 2-day delivery process, and it was some decent quality produce. The person left the box at my door, rang my doorbell, and then we kind of waved from a distance, and I was able to bring that in. They do have a $50 minimum. And then I just heard about a company called the Meat Guys that similarly was operating, selling meat to the restaurant industry, that you have to buy in pretty large quantities, but for someone who would be willing to buy and cook and freeze, and wanted to make, 10 pounds of chicken or, a 15-pound brisket and freeze it in portions, it just gives another option for a way to get that. Crystal, I've been hearing, is delivering in about, if you order by noon, in 2 days. The Meat Guys, I'm hearing, are maybe closer to a week ahead with ordering. Also, one of the challenges that we're hearing from seniors right now is if they were using SNAP benefits, this is the other name for food stamps, that and it's not safe for them to get out to the store. It's a challenge in terms of getting groceries. So New York State Office for the Aging advised us that Amazon Fresh statewide, people can, if they're able to get a slot, use their SNAP benefits on Amazon, and that in some zip codes, Walmart and ShopRite are able to accept SNAP benefits. So you can go and check on that. I did speak to someone at the Catholic Charities, the SNAP coordinator, whose number is listed there in the slides, just to confirm that if somebody isn't able to get out to the store and isn't able to use their SNAP benefits online, that those should be rolling over for you to be able to use them once things are up and running. And if people haven't had SNAP in the past and now their finances have changed and they're looking to apply, they can reach out to one of these nutrition outreach and education program coordinators through Catholic Charities or the Health and Welfare Council of Long Island. Food pantries are another option. There's Island Harvest, which is available pretty broadly. I'm not sure, I know we're focused in Syosset, but we may have some folks that are farther away from Syosset. And then the Mid-Island Y JCC, where I work, has the Rudman Family Food Pantry. And one of the things with our food pantry is we don't require any documentation to show that somebody is, you know, below 135% of the poverty level or anything like that. If somebody is coming to us and saying that they have a food need, we will work with them around getting that food need met. It is shelf-stable items, and it does sometimes take us a few days to get a pantry order out to someone. But if somebody has a food need, a need for toiletries, things like that, please, we cover things that food stamps don't. We have some toilet paper and products like that. So if people do have a need and finances are a concern, please don't hesitate to use that as an option. Home delivered meals. So you have the number here for Nassau County Office for the Aging. Depending on your locality, it may be a different Meals on Wheels provider. So if you call Nassau County Office for the Aging, that number connects you to something called New York Connects, where they are aware of different local resources and can try to connect you with the Meals on Wheels provider in your area. A lot of local restaurants, again, have switched over to a delivery model to be able to stay in business. And then there's also a company called Mom's Meals, and it is kind of an alternative to Meals on Wheels for people who either may not be able to get it at this time, or who really want to be able to choose their own meal as opposed to getting what is sent. So if you go to that Mom's Meals website, you can see a menu where it lists out specific things. And then there are packages of I think it's a 7-meal minimum, or you can get up to 21 meals for a week, and they last stored in the refrigerator for up to 14 days from when they're delivered. And we had a family where it was a gentleman who was supposed to be going into an assisted living, really needed a lot of care. And now the assisted living said, no, we're not taking any new people moving in. And the family doesn't want to go and be exposing him to germs by doing things for him, but he really is at a point in his life where he can't cook for himself and can't do these other things. And they called Mom's Meals on a Friday and were told that they would get Wednesday delivery, which, given how backed up things are right now, you know, is a pretty good possibility. I listed Mom's Meals here because they have senior specific types of, so they have renal diet, they have diabetic diet, they have, I'm trying to think what, low sodium, cardiac. So they're able to accommodate different healthcare specific diets. There are other home delivery meal companies. They tend to be a little pricier also, but if people want that additional information, you know, feel free to reach out to me and I can give you some names. Actually, somebody was telling me the other day, there's one Home Bistro, Magic Kitchen, or Top Chef Meals. So if anyone wants to Google those other options, like I said, they're a little bit pricier than Mom's Meals, but they, you know, certainly give you some other possibilities. Also with Mom's Meals, if you don't want to do the whole process of choosing your meal, you can just go ahead and say chef's choice. And by the way, I don't get a commission on any of these. So it's just about sharing with you things that have worked for other people. And then the other thing is volunteer-based services. So a number of local houses of worship we're hearing are having congregants who are younger volunteering that when they go and do their shopping, that they're willing to shop for a senior in the congregation. So you may want to reach out to your house of worship, reaching out to Nassau County Office for the Aging to find out what organizations are doing shopping in your local community, local community centers, and you know where Syosset Library is located, and in areas kind of to, I guess, the north end there, in Joshua Lafazan's district. His office is recruiting volunteers and then pairing them up with seniors that live in that district. Things that you want to consider or ask about if you're using one of these volunteer services. How are they handling money and payment to reduce virus exposure? What other safeguards are in place to protect you? So, are you leaving cash in a mailbox before a shop is done? And what are the safeguards to make sure somebody's not taking advantage in some way? So just having a sense of what those possibilities are. But there are so many wonderful people who are wanting to come and wanting to help, and organizations that are putting procedures in place to help keep seniors safe. And this is just a flyer for County Legislator Lafazan's program. I called his office the other day and I spoke with Rena there, who was lovely, and she's kind of the one taking calls and helping to pair seniors with volunteers based on where they live. So if people are within the legislator's district, they can call that number there, 516-571-6218. Also, people can feel free, it's listed later on, to call me or the team at the Mid-Island YJCC. We have some limited shopping assistance right now through our organization, and we may know about other options. I've tried to put as many of them as I'm really aware of right now in this presentation, but we're learning about new things and we're enhancing our own capacities every day. And so we're happy to share, what we've learned, and also help you try to figure out which of the different resources may be the best fit for what your circumstances are. So someone who doesn't have a credit card, we have a number of seniors in our low-income apartments that don't have credit card accounts. Maybe Umbrella is not going to be the right choice for them because it's credit card based. So we can work with you to try to see what's going to be that right fit. In terms of access to medication, we're again encouraging you to try to think ahead in terms of a 2-week supply. Don't wait for a prescription to run out to try to refill it. One of our social workers spent about 6 hours on the phone with the pharmacy and the doctor trying to get heart medicine for somebody who would let it get down to his last 2 pills. Look at mail order options. CVS has a link on its website that allows you to transfer prescriptions from other pharmacies and set it up for free mail delivery. Consider getting a 90-day supply so you don't have to worry, and explore whether your insurance company is allowing early refill options so that you don't have to leave things for the last minute. Also, don't forget to plan ahead for over-the-counter medication. For example, when this first came up, there were some items in the news questioning whether acetaminophen, which is the medication in Tylenol, was better than ibuprofen, the medication in Advil, and there was a huge run on Tylenol, and it became a real challenge, and any form of acetaminophen, to get it. So you want to think ahead if there's an over-the-counter medication that you use regularly or under specific circumstances, to plan ahead to make sure that you have that on hand before you need it. I just want to pause for a minute and see if any questions have been put up. It doesn't look like there have.
Hi.
Jessica, was there a question? Hello?
I think that Judy has her hand raised.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I couldn't see that.
Yeah. Okay. And Judy has her hand raised. Judy, if you could type in the chat your question. Okay. Well, Judy, I'm going to allow you to talk. Okay, go ahead. Did you have a question, Judy?
I think she has to unmute herself on her end.
Then you have to unmute yourself on your end, Judy.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
yes, I can.
Okay, Walgreens and CVS have offered to deliver free.
Mm-hmm.
They're sending out prescriptions by FedEx or UPS for free. So you don't have to have people deliver your prescriptions if they are with those 2 pharmacies.
Terrific. Thank you, Judy.
Yeah, also, a friend of mine ordered from Misfits Market, and they send fruits and vegetables that may look a little funny, but the supermarkets don't sell them, so they send them by the basket. You can't pick what you want, but she said she got a very nice amount of vegetables, and there was nothing about them that she wouldn't use. So that's
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing.
misfitsmarket.com.
Wonderful. Thank you, Judy. We'll
Okay, I'm muting myself again.
perfect. No, I so appreciate Judy sharing that, and maybe we'll have a little bit of time at the end where people can go ahead and let us know if there are other resources that they've heard about, because that's where we're learning a lot of the things that we're sharing. And yes, the CVS is, it's either by postal mail or UPS or FedEx that they're doing. It's not a person who's coming from the store. It's somebody that's working for one of these delivery companies that's, I guess, leaving it at your doorstep.
Yeah, and Walgreens.
And Walgreens.
Yeah.
So that's great to know. I had heard more about CVS, but it's good to know that Walgreens is doing it as well. So if someone is with Walgreens, they don't have to worry about switching over. So thank you so much, Judy. In terms of accessing healthcare, I think one of the real challenges that we're hearing is people who say, well, I have other health conditions not related to the virus. And ordinarily, I'm supposed to see my cardiologist every 6 months, or my endocrinologist, or my eye doctor, and concerns and anxieties about whether they should be keeping that appointment or not. In general, we're encouraging people to speak with their physicians about whether the risk of exposure from coming into the office environment outweighs the benefit that they would get from coming in. Some appointments are able to be switched over to telehealth rather than done in the office. So I had mentioned, that my daughter had fallen down the stairs and hit her mouth pretty badly, and we were able to have a pediatric dentist look at a picture of her mouth and tell us what they felt was happening and how to address it at home. If you're not able to reach your own physician, or if your own physician is not offering telehealth options, you can try calling the number on the back of your insurance card and see if your insurance company is working with any particular telehealth providers. And some of the urgent care centers around town have switched over to offering telehealth options. If you do need to go into your physician's office, you want to ask ahead about what steps are being taken to limit your contact with other patients. So I had somebody who gets shots in her eyes to prevent macular degeneration, and her doctor's office told her the danger of losing her sight was significant if she didn't go for the appointment. But they said, go sit in your car until we call you and tell you that the prior patient is leaving, and then come up for your appointment so you're not sitting in a crowded waiting room. Try to limit ER visits to true emergencies to reduce your exposure risk. So ordinarily, if my daughter fell down the stairs and I was concerned and she was bleeding, might I have considered taking her to the emergency room? It's possible I might have. It was after hours. It was, my pediatrician's office wasn't open. But under these circumstances, we said, is this such an emergency that we must go to the ER? And we decided that it wasn't. So you want to think about that, because there is a risk of exposure in going to these environments. And if someone is experiencing symptoms that they think are consistent with coronavirus, with this COVID-19, but they're not at a point where they want to risk going to an environment like an urgent care center or a crowded physician's office or a hospital, and they're not feeling like they're in any immediate distress or any immediate danger, that you can call New York State Department of Health's coronavirus hotline. They'll interview you and ask, details about your symptoms, about your exposure level to other people with known cases of the virus, your underlying health conditions, and based on that, put you on a prioritized list of when you'll be called to get an appointment There are drive-through testing centers where literally you stay in your car the whole time. You have your windows closed until the last minute when you get up to someone with a swab to take a sample, and they give you information on how to access those results over the internet or telephonically. So that's a good resource to have down, and you can also call that hotline if you have health questions related to coronavirus. The other option is that you can contact your own physician and have them reach out to Department of Health on your behalf. But this is a good option if you're having difficulty getting a hold of your doctor's offices. I think mental and emotional health right now is so important. People are, perhaps more they are more isolated than they've been before. They may be experiencing losses without the usual supports that they would typically have, not having a wake or a public funeral or an in-person Shiva. And so the effect on mental and emotional health can be profound. So these are just some resource numbers that you can try reaching out to. The Institute on Aging has a 24-hour friendship line that people can call or arrange to have a schedule call made to a senior. New York State's coronavirus support hotline was set up through volunteer mental health counselors. So people can call and express that they have an emotional support need related to the coronavirus and get matched up with a mental health counselor. The Mid-Island YJCC, where I work, has set up what they're calling a warm line. Warm meaning it may not 100% of the time be answered immediately by a staff person, but someone will get back to you to talk through what your need and what your concern is. And I'll also share that line is more broadly. If someone lives in the service areas for one of what's called our NORC programs, Neighborhood Naturally Occurring Retirement Community, and they're over the age of 60, my team has social workers that are able to provide some ongoing supports. We're providing it remotely because we don't want to be spreading the virus going from one senior's home to another, and we need to protect our own families, but we can help with coordinating resources for folks and providing some mental and emotional support. I want to just pause and see, are there any other raised hands or questions at this point? I'm not sure how to view the raised hands.
There are no raised hands at this point. Does anybody have a comment or a question that they want to make? You could raise your hand or write in the chat. Nope, nobody right now.
Great. So then I just wanted to talk about staying connected in the age of social distancing. And, I guess I'm preaching to the choir here because you're all on a Zoom. But, video chats, Facebook Messenger, FaceTime, I think a lot of seniors have historically used that mainly for seeing their grandkids. But now it's also an opportunity to connect with friends. And, there are these formal types of things that are being set up by libraries and community centers, but there are also the opportunities to informally set things up with friends. My son played chess with his cousin, where they each had a chessboard set up, and they would make one another's moves on the boards. They had kind of the duplicate chessboards, and they were able to play a game of chess. We did with our extended family a multiplayer game of bingo, where I emailed everybody a bingo board, and we pulled numbers on index cards out and called them out. People are just sitting and chatting with other people over Zoom or Facebook Messenger or FaceTime. And then there are these more formal opportunities for group classes and meetings. And of course, good old-fashioned telephone calls, the opportunity to connect with other people. And chances are, if you're feeling isolated, there's a good chance that some of your friends are too, and might really appreciate your call, but just not think to reach out. Sorry. Okay, so wanted to talk more about formal classes and meetings. So Dorot, which is an organization based in the city, Dorot means generations and has a lot of programming aimed at helping older adults and connecting the younger generation with the older generation, has been offering for quite some time a program called University Without Walls. Which is phone-based classes. So you don't need an internet connection to participate in the classes. It's helpful to have one because you can look at their program calendar online. But if you know an isolated senior who doesn't have access to the internet and you wanna, look through and find some classes that you think that they might enjoy, they can participate entirely over the telephone. They would have to call ahead and reserve a slot for the class. They try to keep them limited in size so that it can be interactive, and then they would get a call when they wanted to go ahead and participate in that program. And then Self-Help Community Services has a program called the Virtual Senior Center, which has web-based classes, socialization, and gameplay. There's a link here to that virtual senior center program. And again, that was a pre-existing program that had been going on that was limited to homebound seniors. And now, unfortunately, many or most of our seniors are homebound by circumstances. So that's another option as well. I'm seeing that it looks like in the chat, rather than the Q&A, that there are a number of items.
I'm going to unmute Crystal Berger. Okay, Crystal, I'm going to allow you to talk. Can you talk?
Hi, yes. Hi, Alyssa. Hi, Alana. Thank you so much. This presentation is excellent, so I just want to say thank you, but I was interrupted earlier by a phone call on my end, so I don't know if you had a chance to mention this. I may have missed it. So as you know, but anyone else might be listening, I work for Legislator Drucker's office. We have a similar opportunity set up, and we can extend it beyond the district as well, but it's called Neighbors Helping Neighbors. It's something we are actually partnering with the JCC on as of yesterday, so I'm really excited about that. Neighbors can sign up and take a half hour or maybe an hour of their time and call other neighbors and just reach out. And this way, someone answering the phone, we don't know what situation they're in. They could be an isolated senior. They could be someone who's not a senior and still be isolated and might be appreciative of the power of another human voice, and just check in. Any needs that are noted between our office and the JCC, as dependent upon what type of need it might be, we'll be able to address it or refer it so that we can make sure we're continuing to connect to people who might need something. People can also use this link to sign up and also shop for seniors. The legislators cover different areas, so we'll make sure that that's done, and they can also sign up to drop off prescriptions or help with anything else that might be needed.
Thank you so much, Crystal, for mentioning that. Yeah, I prepared this presentation before all of that was put together. So
oh yeah, this was last night.
An update. I was kind of saying, stay tuned. We're working on stuff.
Yep.
For bringing that all up to speed, and we know that legislators at Drucker's office has been working very hard to see how we can mobilize people in the district to support one another. And actually, we're also working with you guys on a program if people want to do cards for
yes, thank you.
Healthcare workers, and that actually can be a fun thing. We think of it as more of a younger person's activity, but it's really not. To be able to use your craftier side and use supplies that are in the house to put together little notes that can be submitted and then displayed at the local hospitals, so that when the healthcare workers are walking in and out, they're seeing the appreciation of the community. Because I think so many of us feel helpless of what can I do to try to address the situation that's happening around me. And particularly a lot of our seniors that are used to being active and are used to going and are used to helping, We've spoken to people, you know, upwards of 90 years old who are saying, but I want to go to the supermarket and do. I don't want to have people do for me. Right now, the safest thing that you can do for yourself and your community and your family is to stay home. That doesn't mean that you can't necessarily be contributing in some way. So the cards program is a great way to be able to do that.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Also, in terms of online classes, Silver Sneakers is offering Facebook Live classes where you can see a fitness instructor lead a Silver Sneakers class on the website and follow along. The Mid-Island Y has also set up a virtual experience page, which has a lot of these resources for virtual classes, and also has listings of which JCC fitness classes are happening virtually. You can also access that on the JCC's Facebook page. Usually each day, I think it's Exercise with Joy that does a live exercise class on Facebook. And just some general tips on trying to stay sane or as sane as possible in these uncertain times. One is trying to be as flexible as possible. You know, we're speaking to a lot of people who are saying, oh, if you could bring me canned fruit, but I really need it to be Del Monte. Or, you know, I want this particular kind of this. And try to see if you can use it as an opportunity to step outside your comfort zone a little bit. You know, an ingredient for your favorite recipe might be missing, but if you go on Google and you type in the ingredients that you have, you may find a whole other recipe and discover something different that you didn't know that you liked. So trying to step outside of those habits that we all have, that it needs to be a particular brand of toothpaste, or it needs to be 2% milk, not 1%, trying to be a bit more flexible. Being patient. Many providers are trying to provide supports from home while dealing with their own healthcare needs, their own childcare needs, their own senior care needs. And unfortunately right now, responses are going to take longer than usual in many cases. And just to kind of build that in, and it's not that the provider isn't caring about you or isn't wanting to take the time to respond to you. They may, as has been the case with me, literally be pulling their almost 2-year-old off the dining room table where she's climbed up and is trying to stand. So just trying to be patient and know that generally people are doing the best they can under these challenging circumstances. And you will hopefully, you know, be hearing back and getting your needs met with a little bit of patience, and just, you know, being kind. We all respond to stress in our own different ways. And sometimes when people are a little short with us or a little unkind or whatnot, it's just their own stress manifesting. You know, we had somebody that we brought this whole pantry bag to the other day, and it was this volunteer who was so lovely in giving his time. And the first words out of her mouth were an expletive because it was the wrong kind of oatmeal. And then she kind of backtracked because, you know, she saw all the other items and was so appreciative. And we were able to say, you know what, this was how she was responding to her stress, and she was looking forward to that familiarity. And our staff and our volunteer were able to respond with kindness rather than giving her a hard time about her response. So just trying to do all of those things. Also making a personalized list of activities that help when you're feeling stressed and referring back to it. Because I think sometimes when we're in those really stressed out moments, we don't always think of what are those things that's gotten me through other times in the past. And that list is going to be different for each person. So for one person, it might be when they call certain particular friends, or you know, sitting out in their backyard, or opening the windows, the window shades in their house to let in natural light, or tending to some indoor plants. It may be different for each person. I know people who call a prayer line or call a hotline, or who do needlework, or who wash their hair, whatever it might be for you. Trying when you're not in acute stress to make that list so that you can refer to it when you are in acute stress, because our problem solving skills are not always at our best when we're stressed out. Think about other times that you've had really stressful situations. I know after 9/11, I did a lot of cross stitching. It just, the repetitive motion of it was very soothing. I haven't actually done it in this crisis, but that's a good thing for me to keep in mind if I find that my mind starts racing and I'm having a difficult time with things, that kind of slows me down and helps me recenter myself. And again, it's going to be different for each person. I encourage people, especially if you're stuck at home without other tasks to be doing, try to limit the amount of time that you spend watching the news. I know the other day I had the 6:30 news on in my kitchen, and then it went on to Jeopardy, and now instead of Wheel of Fortune, they replay most of the news stories at 7:30. Maybe there's a little bit added, but it's largely the same thing. So I wasn't really learning any new information. I was just seeing scary things over and over. And so much more so if you have one of the 24-hour news stations on constantly in the background. It's re-traumatizing us without necessarily providing key new information. So one thing you can think about doing, I know after 9/11, I used to keep the music stations on, knowing that if something critical happened, they would interrupt the music and tell me. So I still felt connected to the outside world, but I wasn't having that constant barrage of news. Governor Cuomo has an email distribution list that every evening sends a summary of the key things that are happening in New York that takes about 2 or 3 minutes to read. It's very sort of balanced in terms of realistic information, but not overly frightening. So I find for myself, that's a good way to feel like I'm staying on top of what's going on without a ton of overexposure to the news. Trying to create a temporary new normal to give you some moorings to hold on to, because I think right now our schedules are turned on their heads and we're used to doing certain things at certain times, and everything is kind of in this kerfuffle. So thinking about saying, you know what, maybe in the morning is the time that I go on this particular website that I like and find the puzzle, or maybe this is the time that I make calls to people, and trying to get into some kind of routine that gives you something to hold on to, because there's just so much uncertainty right now that it's helpful to have those kinds of moorings. And again, reaching out if you need support. Nassau County Office for the Aging, you know, a lot of the local political offices, the emotional support lines we had provided previously, the JCC's warm line for general community inquiries. And then if people do live within Syosset proper, within the area for POB Cares, which is Plainview and Old Bethpage east of the 135, or Project PACE, which is Plainview west of the 135. The program that I oversee specifically supports those areas with social work support, community health nursing, connection to resources. That's my extension at the office. I check my voicemail every day and get back to people, and my team is, you know, got our cell phones close by and our, you know, headsets so that we can give you a call back and, you know, share what we're hearing about and see what resources we can connect you with. So that kind of leaves it for my key points that I wanted to get to talk about. I see that there's one more in the chat. Let's see. I'm sorry.
I also wanted to mention that obviously the Syosset Library has many programs during the week for adults. You can check out our programs at library.org. Check the live streaming calendar, and it'll show you every day what programs are available for seniors. And we pretty much have at least 2 a week. So please check that out on a regular basis. It's changing on a regular basis.